Welcome to the Black Girl Burnout Podcast. Kelley here, and today we have a guest. Our guest is Shalanda Armstrong. And when I tell you all, this episode is a don't miss, I'm not kidding. This episode is for anyone who's ever thought about owning a business or thought about getting into entrepreneurship, anyone who's currently in entrepreneurship or a business owner. This episode is for you. Let me tell you why. Shalanda Armstrong is a founder and managing partner of 100 KM Ventures based in Washington, D.C. She's basically a venture capitalist, y'all. 100 KM Ventures invests in early stage companies with the future of work and the future of health. Specifically, close to her heart for Shalanda is women's health tech. So it's all about us. Prior to 100 KM Ventures, Shalanda was an active angel investor, investing in 30 startups, including No Bull Apparel, Deep Sentinel, and Instacart. Shalanda has spent close to 20 years in the tech sector, holding multiple technology consulting leadership roles at top-tier firms, including PwC, EY, and Salesforce, after beginning her career as a software engineer at Lockheed Martin. Shalanda holds a bachelor's in computer science from Hampton University and a master's in engineering and technology management from George Washington University, along with an MBA from the Robert H. Smith School of Business at University of Maryland, College Park. She serves on the board of Robert H. Smith School of Business at University of Maryland, College Park, Girls Inc. in DC, and Hampton University's Computer Science Alumni Council. She's also been recognized as Washington, D.C.'s Business Journal's 40 Under 40. That's a mouthful to tell you. Shalanda is about her business, and she knows what makes money and how to sustain it. We have an absolutely incredible, powerful, hopefully only part one of many conversation about beyond venture capital. One, what is it and who's eligible or not eligible for it? But what it takes to make it in business. I share my insights as an entrepreneur. I'm 3 years out in this game, y'all, and I just finally got it together and figured it out. Shalanda is going to give you the tools and the tips. The conversation we're going to have is going to have you equipped to start your journey and to start course correcting if you found yourself getting a little off track, as we all have before, myself included. Let's jump right into this conversation. You are going to be so thankful you stayed and listened. And as a reminder, I am still doing a Q&A episode for the podcast. Please submit your questions. You can ask me anything. Maybe you have follow-up questions about this topic, about mindset and practical tips and tools and how to make it in the business world as an entrepreneur. Share them. But if you have other questions about skincare, about burnout, about making it in corporate spaces, I was in a C-suite level position, I am here for you. Please, please, please ask me your questions. I can't wait to answer them. All right, let's jump into the episode. Hi, Shalanda. I am so excited to have you here. I cannot tell you how exciting this conversation is going to be having. We met through Daria Burke.
Yes.
And we just started having this great conversation, right? About entrepreneurship. It was just totally organic, totally just like, hey, how are you? And there's just so much information. I was like, I got to have you on the podcast. That's it. That's it. No more messing around. I got to have you on here because you are incredibly impressive. I've already said all of the amazingness that is you on the intro. And I cannot wait to have this conversation. But before I get going, because I get all excited and get all into it, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I am, why complain? Who would listen, right? So I'm doing okay.
I would listen, Shalanda, but I get your point. I say the same thing. I'm like, meh, who gonna listen? So good.
Right.
I'm good. So I want to jump right in asking you about venture capital because this is not a space, this isn't shocking. This is not a space overrun with women. it's also not a space overrun with women of color, right? So there's a select handful of people I even like know in my world, and I feel like a lot of them probably we don't know, right? So
Right.
I always want to know like what drew people, like what drew you to venture capital? And then like specifically you don't just do like straight up venture capital, you've niched, right? Like you have a specific focus you look at around women's health and tech. What drew you to this field in general and then also into women's health tech?
Sure. So, what drew me to venture capital initially is I was in undergrad, early 2000s, and I'll give you the exact year, 2003, and I'm in the lab, and there is a press release. And at the time, the Facebook had received venture capital dollars from someone that we all know now as Peter Thiel. And I was with my classmates and I'm like, guys, we have this all wrong. And I was like, I don't know if we should be like pursuing this computer science degree. Like, and of course, all my classmates are like, oh yeah, let's do a startup, let's do a startup, let's go to the valley. And I'm like, no, I want to be the guy who gave him the money. How do I become that? And
Wow.
that is what opened me up to this world of venture. And at the time, venture was a very different industry than what it is today. So in the early 2000s, and it wasn't an asset class, honestly. It was you had to be wealthy already, and you
Yeah.
were funding other wealthy people's projects. And that is kind of how venture was beginning to scale. And then over time, it has now become an asset class that we see endowments and foundations that are a part of it now, as well as high net worth individuals. And it's grown into this whole industry that's been a little bit romanticized, in my opinion, because it's not as glamorous as people think it is. And so that's kind of how I got into venture initially.
I really think that's important talking about the misconceptions and the like how people are romanticizing it. But I also love this kind of decision where you're like, I want to be the person that gave the money. I think that's such an interesting perspective because I could see easily at that time how everyone was like, no, we need to get in on like just make up a thing. Like let's just create a thing and try to get in on this money. And I love the thinking about that because I feel like in so many ways you were thinking there's power in being the person who invests. That's what you saw, right? It's like if the people with the money is investing in the same five people, we still keep getting the same five products, right? And
Right.
like you were able to see, like if I'm the one giving the money, there's a level of power and more importantly, impact I can have on that. And so, how did that background impact you when it came to focusing on women's health tech? Like specifically, I can see it. I'm seeing the vision. I'm seeing how you went from, that 2003 moment to today. And I want to kind of know how you have used the power and the tools and the levers of venture capital to get you to specifically helping women.
Sure. So I started off as an angel investor. So over probably like 15 years ago, I was an angel investor. And so I was just trying to understand how do you invest in startups? And what makes a great founder? Really, are you betting on the idea or the founder? And just kind of going through all of those lessons around angel investing. And what I naturally gravitated towards was women's health. And so I like digital health solutions that were actually addressing some of the problems that we experience every day as women. Honestly, we're 51% of the global population, and there has not been any real research or innovation in women's health. And there's this perception that we're just men that can have babies, and there's so much more to it. We're just now, 2025, we're just now starting to have an open conversation around what menopause is and what it
Yes.
looks like. And that's only because now millennials are premenopausal. So just
Yes.
think
Yeah.
about how long and how many things that we just don't know about our hormones and how certain things or foods are impacting us, whether it's around our fertility or just the way that we're responding to stress and how we hold stress in our bodies differently than men. There's just so much opportunity and research that really needs to be done in the women's health space. And so, with the firm that we launched with 100 km, that's why we decided to focus on what we call the future of health, because for us, the future of health is women's health and the future of work, because those are the two most important things for us in our daily lives is how are we going to make money and how are we going to stay healthy?
Yes, I mean you're speaking all of my like love languages. Now y'all are starting to see why we got along so well at this event and just start having this conversation. Because I was like, yes, yes, and more yes. One, like women's health, Black girl burnout is ultimately about women's health. It's about women's mental health, right? And my day job with my consultancy is all about the future of work, how to facilitate, how to increase culture in a way that produces revenue and innovation, without killing the spirits of everyone around. And I agree with you that it's really disturbing. You see these studies. I was floored when I realized that up until I think a year ago, not even a year, we were testing like sanitary pads and tampons, not with actual blood, but with like liquid, just the
Yes.
regular liquid. And I'm like, well, no wonder people are like, this don't hit it. This is not the right, like, that's not what my period is. We never looked at women's period blood to test it. This is the kind of thing that happens when we've got too many men in a space that just don't know or unwilling or uninformed about these things. And so having someone there who can pull the levers by having the money to be able to do that is going to change the world. Like I really do believe that
Yes.
because ultimately there are good scientists out there. There are people every day who have great ideas, people
Mhm.
every day who are doing research papers, but those people will never have access to the dollars that are needed to translate into products that change my life. And
Right.
you're the missing. It sounds like what you're trying to say is like you're that missing step that connects that great idea, that great research to a tool, a product that I will then use and benefit my life. Am I getting that right?
Yes, and I'll
And
say if you are also building a venture backable company, right? And so when I say that, absolutely, there's been a lot of innovation within women's
important.
health. But not all women health companies are actually venture backable for various reasons. It's not around just the um, population that you're serving, but also how quickly that solution is growing month over month. And so that's why I say and because I get a lot of deal flow and everyone has a different company that they're starting. And a lot of it's really, really great ideas and are going to be very successful companies. They just may not fit the venture model because of how we have to operate as a venture fund and how we need to return capital back to our investors.
And I think I want to just take 2 minutes and explain that because I think, like you said, you started off by saying there's so many myths around venture
Yes.
capitalism, right? And what it is and what it isn't. And before we go into just general business, because you are like someone to ask, you are the person to ask about how to build a business that's successful beyond venture capital because many people listening to this conversation are never going to do that. But there are some people sitting there that are thinking, I have an idea that I think should be backed. And I think it's really important for you to dispel the myths and explicitly say, this is what a venture backed business looks like, right? If you want venture capital, these are the key components. So if you could grace us with that for a couple of minutes, that would be
Sure.
so important.
Sure, absolutely. So, what is a venture backable business? When you are taking a look at your business, you should, if you are considering taking on venture capital, your business should be growing 20 to 30% month over month, not year over year.
There you go.
And that is what we call hypergrowth. Hypergrowth requires a different level of capital because you have to scale so fast. I know a lot of entrepreneurs feel like, well, that's a lot. That's a crazy metric. It is, right? And
Yeah.
that's why you're getting this capital to accelerate your business. And it's because we are looking for outlier outcomes, right? And so we are looking for, the term we're using honestly in 2021 and 22 was we're looking for these unicorn exits. And now, because of the macro environment, we have shifted almost if a unicorn exit is just like baseline. We're looking now for those decacorn exits, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, are you building a 20, 30, $50 billion business? And that takes a lot of work, a lot of capital. And there's so much that goes into um, raising venture capital and then also understanding the game that you're playing when you take on that type of capital from institutions. I think folks think that If it doesn't work out, it's no foul. Well, no, there's a lot that comes with that, right? And so before it doesn't work out, there's so many levers that a VC has to pull so that they're again able to protect their investment as well because they have to return that capital back to their investors.
Yeah, that is so important because I think people they don't understand investing and then they don't understand venture capital,
Mhm.
right? Wanting people to invest in your business is a very different tier and a very different framework of thinking than venture capital. And it's important that people hear, no, you already have to be a very successful business. This isn't like a startup with two people and your family friends and the idea might be $1 billion idea, right? It might be $1 billion idea. But the reality is, are you generating revenue that people can see could project into the billions? And it's really important to say words like billions because that is going to separate you really quickly from, oh yeah, my idea is great, but it made 40,000 last year. Yeah, that's not even remotely in the tier of venture capital. And I feel like that's really important because people throw these words around and you
Mhm.
see on the news acquisitions and you see people getting these huge investments and it's exciting, right? You're like, this is great. Yeah, they've been in existence for a long time. That's the first thing. These are not new businesses. These are not like businesses that just started 2 months ago and all of a sudden necessarily did this growth. These are businesses that are usually known names. That's the other thing. I'm like, yeah, you know them. That's why they have venture capital behind them because you know them. Like they
Right.
have built a brand and a name for themselves in a way that people you're not doing as like a person in a corner over here, right? This isn't saying you don't have a good business idea. We're going to move into what to do with your business idea and how to have a good business idea. But I think it's just really important that we took the time to be very crystal clear on what venture capital is and what is the path to getting in that world. And for some people listening, they're on that path. And to you all, I say, wonderful. Remember Black Girl Burnout, sponsor me because you got enough. Sponsor me today because you already got enough to sponsor this podcast if you're on the track to venture capital. You are there, but there's a lot of us who aren't, myself included, right? Like, this isn't, and it's not a shame. It's like, this is the tier, this is the entrance. And so, anything else before we shift into just general pieces of business advice for entrepreneurs because you got a ton
Yes.
and that's where I want to spend our time. But I want to make sure we close out this venture capital piece real clean and clear for folks about what's worth their time in venture capital and what is not.
Yeah, so one thing I just want to clarify that you
Yes,
mentioned.
please.
So you can definitely have a small team, right? You don't have to have this large team. If it's only 3 to 5 people, you guys are working on an idea, that's okay, right? We as VCs, we do back small teams, and I invest primarily at the early stage. So I'm looking at small teams. It's honestly around how many customers have you been able to actually capture, and
That makes
how
sense.
sticky is your business, right? Because we're looking at that hyper growth. We talk about the J curve a lot in venture. And so we're always trying to assess where are you on that J curve? Because we're not trying to like gradually get there. We're trying to say, where are you in that inflection point? And then we're going straight up. And then what does that look like?
That makes total sense. Thank you for clarifying. I think that's an important clarification that you're looking for. It's not necessarily the team, it's the output. It's like,
Right.
what are you doing? Who are you serving? What's that number look like? Right. That makes total sense to me. And again, for those listening who feel like, oh, I might be that person. Well, good. Pat yourself on the back.
Yes.
You are that person. And I look forward to you hearing this episode and being like, as a result, here I am 5 years later. I'm excited for you. For the rest of us, let's talk about just like tools and truths for Black women in business. Because I know you and I spent a lot of time talking about this. This is something I'm very passionate about as
Mhm.
someone who's an entrepreneur, never, not anywhere near venture capital, just an entrepreneur, making the world with some good ideas. I think there's a lot of myths and a lot of absence of
Mhm.
knowledge in the space. And so, I want to start by kind of saying, like, foundationally, it doesn't matter what business you have, what do you believe are like the core elements for success for women, Black women entrepreneurs?
Oh, wow. There's so much. I don't even know where to start.
I
We
know.
could go on for hours around this. This is where I say this to my founders and those that are in my portfolio and founders that I mentor all the time. You as a person have to be growing faster than your business.
Amen. Yes.
And so you have to figure out all your own stuff. So
Yes.
what whether that and we all have it. We all have things that we have to work through and everyone, it's now on trend that everyone's doing the work, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
And
Use
yes,
quotes around that.
right.
Definitely quote that, Shalana. Don't be out here saying doing the work. You know, everyone said, I'm doing the work. And
I'm
you're like,
doing
no,
the
you're not.
work, right?
No, you're not.
And so you really, but honestly, for you to go on this journey of entrepreneurship and truly betting on yourself, you have to honestly get comfortable with yourself. And there
Yes.
has to be a level of self awareness around what you do well, where you struggle, where there's areas of improvement. And you have to do that at rapid speed. So you don't get all day to figure it out. Like you have to honestly be growing faster than your business. And a lot of times when we see businesses fail, it honestly is because the CEO, the owner, they weren't growing fast enough to keep up with the speed of growth of their business.
So when we talk about constipation, bloating, heaviness, sluggishness, these aren't just random symptoms. They're actually your gut's way of telling you something's off. Look, I'm going to be real with you. As a podcaster and a consultant and a writer, I'm always on the go. And I have struggled for years to maintain my energy, to really keep myself kind of together with bloating around my cycle, all the things you can think of. This is where Oxy Powder from Global Healing came in. Oxy Powder isn't just another cleanse or quick fix. It's a targeted oxygen based formula that gently and safely breaks down and flushes out wastes and toxins that build up in your gut over time. I take it at night, and by the morning, I'm feeling lighter and clearer, just better. Oxy Powder is easy to take, and because of that, it's become a staple in my routine. And I'm not the only one. A consumer study showed incredible results. 95% said that it relieved constipation, 87% said it felt relief from bloating, and a massive 95% said they would use it again, with 93% recommending it to a friend. If you're tired of feeling weighed down, trust me on this. Head over to globalhealing.com/heal and try Oxy Powder for 20% off. You'll thank me later. That's globalhealing.com/heal. Yes, and it's that personal development. Yes, I 100% agree. I always say, like, for myself, I mean, I've been in therapy before being an entrepreneur, but it
Mhm.
is a necessity now.
Yes.
And a necessity, and obviously finding a therapist, finding a person who understands you're an entrepreneur, understands those kinds of pieces, a necessity because it is all you. And I cannot tell you how liberating and scary and eye opening it is when it's all you. Like you begin to realize, oh, the stuff that I got away with never developing in myself,
Mhm.
taking accountability. There's just levels. And it's like, I'm not saying that I never took accountability in my life, but it was like before I'm like, y'all a mess. This project will
Right.
just fail. Oh,
Yes.
well, look at me get my check. Like I'm going to do my best. But when it's you, the mental, like either anguish or anxiety, or just even like pausing that you do when you realize it's not company X that's going to struggle, it's me. If I'm not
Mhm.
together, if I'm not showing up, in your jobs, we've all had times where we've just had an off day at our job, an off month. We're like, we're top performer, but we're like, look, stress happened and I just wasn't my best in June. When you're an entrepreneur, you can't do that unless you are far down the road of establishing yourself, right? Like you have an off month. Oh, okay, then you're not getting a check. Like there's just pieces of that you need to regulate yourself and know yourself in a way that you may not have had to develop. There's muscles you didn't have to develop when you're working a corporate 9 to 5 in entrepreneurship and in business. And I think that's really important. My thing that I would say is endurance. Like
Mhm.
it is, there is no such thing contrary. Well, maybe there's like 1%. But there is no such thing as overnight success. I don't know those people. I know people who look like they had overnight success, but once you go beyond it, then you start being like, no, there was no overnight success there. They were working behind the scenes all the time. And I feel like that's another quality that people have that's unrelated to business. Notice we haven't said and one business skill yet. We haven't said take one course. We're like
Right.
core elements, know yourself, have some patience and endurance because it's not happening overnight. It takes a while. And when I say a while, I mean years to get to a level of stability. Even if you blow up and everyone buys your product, it's still going to take you years to figure out what's the rhythm, who's the team, all of those pieces. Anything else you would add?
So one thing I do want to add is, because we all do this, especially as Black women, don't think it's just how hard I work, right? So I see a lot of entrepreneurs and founders that like to hide behind the work, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't want to have to deal with themselves, so I'll just keep working. I'll just keep working harder. Again, it will eventually, this is how we, black girl burnout. Like that,
Yeah.
that's how you get there. It's because you're hiding behind something you don't want to deal with. And so you really do need to, one, just handle all your stuff and deal with it. You do have to have some level of endurance and grit. Um, Resilience, of course, is necessary. And I have this phrase of, it is not about timing, it's about who can endure, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone is
Yes.
on their own race, and it's to your point, it's, can you endure everything that comes with your race?
100%. I cannot like yes, 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 yes is all I can keep saying because it is an endurance test. I really do believe it. And I say this to people as someone who's been completely on my own, doing my own business for 3 years. And I will tell you, it is literally year 3 that I
Mm,
finally unlocked my future. And that's actually early. I would argue I'm ahead of the curve by unlocking this in year 3,
wow.
but 3 years, it's usually about 5, but 3
Mhm.
years of taking the time to be like this. And when I say 3 years, when I tell y'all 3 years, I mean like 3 years, 2 days ago. 2 days
Wow,
ago, no
congratulations.
lie. Thank you. I unlocked contracting ideas. I'm like, I got it. I all the other things I've been doing, it all is here and now I can execute and now I can see 2026, 2027. I got it. 3 years to that. And in between then, it was a lot of endurance. And you cannot hustle around the work you have to do. You cannot hide in a process. I did that too. I did 55 business plans and
Mhm.
55 ideas. I was like, no, girl,
Yeah.
this is your wound or this is the visibility gap
Mhm.
you have. You're scared here. And you could do 55 plans if you don't do this thing. You're not going anywhere.
It happens, and we see it all the time, right? And as investors, especially investors that have done this for a while, and everyone will call it something different, but they're trying to understand, do you know you yet? Right? And do you know what you're taking on? And like I said, there's a lot that comes with entrepreneurship, and it's hard. And a lot of times you are going to have to wrestle with, you're betting on yourself. And
Yeah.
that's scary because
Yes.
we have grown up in a society that has put all of these guardrails around us so that we're always safe, right? We never had to actually see what we were truly made of in certain situations. And so now it's like, all right, whatever that idea or whatever, that thing that you want to execute on, like, can you actually do it?
It's terrifying to bet on yourself. Like I
Mhm.
think that's the part that people in and I think it's important that we bring that into the light as someone who's successful, right? You as someone who's trying to get there and is getting there. I think it's important because I think people assume, well, there's a personality type, you
Mhm.
you just got it. You feel good every day. You're like, this is it. I'm a winner. I'm doing it. Y'all are fortunate I graced your doorstep with my idea. That is not true, right? Like there is a
Yeah.
that I think is the scariest piece of being an entrepreneur is it is just you. Both and again, I think black women, we're all prepared for like it's just you and the bad, right? Like I know when it's like it's just you, good luck. And it went wrong. But
Right.
it's just you, meaning like you've got to get up that energy. You've got to get up that confidence and that surety that I have the thing, that I am your answer. My product, whether it's you, the service provider, or your product is that answer.
Mhm.
And you got to be like full chest saying it to yourself, to everyone around you. And as Black women, we've been taught that hiding is safety. And
Right.
like that's a trauma response because we know
Mhm.
what's happened historically. It is a wrestling with yourself to step out there and then align your behaviors with that. It's not just like bravado. It's not, arrogance. I got this. It's like, no, I got this and I have the systems, I have the lifestyle, I have the conversations that communicate to everybody, including myself, that I got it.
Yes, and it's okay to stumble, right, in
Yes.
that journey. It's not gonna be pretty, it's not always going to look the way you want it to look, and it's okay, right? Because you have to have that mindset that either you are going to win or you're going to learn a lesson, right? But you're never actually going to lose in the situation.
I love
Everyone that
that.
Yeah, everyone that I've known that's gone on their entrepreneurial journey, even if it doesn't work out, they've learned so much and so many new skills that they are
Yes.
able to apply it to that next venture, right? And so you just have to have that mindset that either this is going to be wildly successful and I'm going to win, or I'm going to learn so much through this journey that I can apply it to the next thing that I'm going to launch.
Yes, I totally agree. And that confidence is invaluable because it's not tied to a product. It's
Yes.
not tied to an accomplishment. It's just about knowing. Because there's sometimes the business idea you started with may not, what I started doing 3 years ago is not what I do today.
Right.
Okay. And I don't consider those other things a failure. I consider it a lesson. Like you said, growth opportunity. What did I learn here? Again, back to that endurance. And I think that that's the key, right? Knowing yourself and having a level of endurance. And also, too, then there's like the practice. So now we're like, this is like the mental work, but let's
Mhm.
talk a little bit about the practical work. For you, what kind of like financial shifts or literacy to like what kind of tools did you need to make sure that you got to where you're going, or that you consider like game changers? Like, I unlocked this concept, or I didn't realize I had to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, that's what I need to be doing.
So for me, I had to shift my mindset around it does not matter how much you make. It's how much you
Yes.
actually keep.
Please keep saying one more time, Shalanda. Tell it
It
one more
doesn't
time.
matter. It does not matter how much you make. It's how much you keep.
There you go.
And so for especially for Black women, we have to shift our mindsets around everyone wants to talk about how much money they make and how much they
Yes.
have and how much they spent on X, Y, and Z. But how much of it did you actually keep? Right? Do you actually have tax strategies and tax plannings with your team quarterly so that you can make sure you're not giving it all to Uncle Sam? Because after a certain amount of money, you are in that 38, 39% tax bracket. And if you, depend on what state you live in, for example, if you're in California, you're giving half of that away. Right.
Yes.
And so it really is around, do you understand fundamentally how this works, from taxes to understanding the capital stack and debt structures, and when is it right to actually leverage debt? As a generation of millennials, right? Um, we have been taught, it's been beat into us. Debt is bad, right? Stay away from debt. No one wants debt. Well, there's nuance to that. Consumer debt is an issue, but there's absolutely so many ways you can leverage debt. I mean, we have now someone who is in the highest office in the land who has made his whole career off of leveraging debt.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so whether yeah, and so there's just so many things that we, again, as Black women, that we just don't get exposure to when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I always say that you really do have to really lean into the tax code, because when you start to understand the US tax code, it is truly meant to only benefit two types of folks, and that is entrepreneurs and people who own land. If you are a W 2 employee, as you earn more money, that tax code starts to work against you. And so that is why I say that's the fundamental thing, is you really have to work on your financial literacy and know that it doesn't stop. Like, this is past just having a checking account and, knowing how to budget and all of that. But no, it's like really understanding how money and capital flows and how it works, and then how to leverage it to your benefit.
I could stand up and clap and cheer. I had to stop myself because I'm like, nobody wants to hear me being like, yes, amen, yes, snaps and claps, just to hold myself back. This is so important. It is not what you make, it is how much you keep.
Yes.
It is so important. Not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Because if there's one thing I could get people who listen to this podcast to do is stop buying products and getting involved with people who keep telling you, I'm gonna make you 7 figures. I'm gonna make you a 6 figure person in 6 months. That does not matter. It matters what you have in your bank at home. If you have $100,000 in your checking account, good job. That is a win program for you. If you have $1 million as your salary or whatever your take home was, wonderful. Congratulations. There are a lot of broke millionaires. There
Yes.
are a lot of broke multi-thousandaires. And if there's one thing I could tell people, the poorest I have ever been is when I cracked 6 figures.
Mm,
The richest I have ever been up until probably recent is when I was making 5 figures. Why? Because my income to debt ratio was nothing. Like I had no debt, I had no problems, I had no team. All my money, I was like, "Oh, I made this money and like a third of it is just spending play money." That was the quote unquote richest I have ever been. And I've also been in the early days of entrepreneurship, over leveraged, not understanding
yeah.
debt in the right way, but made a lot of money. Like, I'm like, I made stupid money. And then we got to the end of the year and like, what did you take home?
Right.
Nothing. Okay. Do not make that mistake. And how you get there is by focusing on the number and the focusing on what I sold this, I did this. No, it's what you keep.
It's
Okay, what of
all
that
about
did you
what you do.
keep?
It's
You got
all about what
55
you
team
keep.
members
Yeah.
and your cousin on the payroll, then you are not a millionaire. I don't care if you
Right.
made 10 million. If 9.9 of it goes out the door, you are not a millionaire.
And I think it's also you have to change your relationship with money, right? And I
Yes.
think that's the part where we talk about like just doing that work, right? Of are you self-aware enough of how you respond with money? Because if as you make more money, if you are constantly having lifestyle creep because you are trying to keep up on whatever's on Instagram, or then you're constantly going to find yourself behind the 8 ball. And I have talked to many, many entrepreneurs. That tax bill at the end of the year, because they did not pay their quarterly taxes correctly or they didn't estimate correctly, and they're just like, "How did this happen?" It happened because there was no strategies or planning, and you were just taking in money and spending it as it was coming in. And that is the
Yes.
biggest issue that I've just seen with entrepreneurs. So that is like the first step is you have to really get comfortable with your relationship with money.
I agree. And taxes is a piece of that. That's the second piece of advice. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Get yourself a good tax attorney that you trust that has good reputations. Get yourself a good uh, bookkeeper if you need that. Get those two. If you can get it in one person, wonderful. But that is critical to the success of my business. That was a game changer because, as you said already, the people who benefit the most, I was like, oh, wow, really? Are people who are entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I didn't know about the landowner part, but I will tell you firsthand entrepreneurship is great for your tax life if you have the right people involved. And otherwise, it will terrorize your life.
Yeah.
You do that
Yes.
wrong and you get that. I've talked to people who had to shut down their business at tax time because they got that bill and they never thought about it and they didn't understand how it was going to work, and instead of they were doing it on their own on a
Mhm.
spreadsheet. Don't do that, y'all. Don't do that. Get
Don't
someone
do
to
that.
do
Yeah.
it. Don't
Don't
do it.
don't just because you can, and honestly, today we don't even balance our checkbooks, right? We all
No.
log into our accounts and see, and hopefully the comma and the decimals are in the right places, right? So, like, if you are not comfortable trying to manage your finances, don't do it.
Don't do
Pl
it.
Please outsource
Don't
it,
do
get
it.
the appropriate help, and get folks around you that actually know what they're doing and I always say and can explain it to you in plain English.
That's key too. And are like
Yeah,
chatting with you, communicative. Like
yes,
I can get on a call with my tax attorney in 72 hours. Unless it's emergent and they said they'll do 24. If it's emergent,
right.
we'll do 20. But I can get my tax attorney on the phone and they can walk me through A, B, C, D up. I understand. Don't ever leave out because as we see that too. People going to
Mhm,
jail for tax fraud because they
right.
hired someone and didn't have a clue. But those are the two. I think if you get nothing else out of this episode, this is it. And I have a question for you about this brings us to mentorship, right?
Yes.
And executive coaching. Like people out here getting a coach. If I could also dissuade people, some of these coaches, it's like multi-level marketing. Like
Mm.
it's just based on you giving them information that they don't got it. What should you look for in a mentor or an executive coach when you're talking about that next level versus like your friends, people who don't got giving you advice?
Sure. So, couple different things I use. So first, you should have your personal board of directors, right?
Yes.
And there's frameworks around who needs to be on that board of directors, but your circle, the folks that you lean on, should be folks that challenge you, right? There's going to be a cheerleader in there. Who do you go for when you really have that hard problem? They can, walk you through it. It's you really have to develop that personal board of directors first. I think that's critical. The next part of that is everyone wants to coach, right? And that's cool. That's great. What do you need that coach to actually do for you, though? Um,
Yes.
I definitely think that there's a lot of executive coaches that, especially that are helping Black women around some of the nuances that we experience within corporate structures or as we're going into entrepreneurship and some things that we have to unlearn just from a societal standpoint. And so I think that's beneficial. And then there's the executive coach that actually is helping you do the thing that you're trying to do. And that executive coach will probably not look like you. And you got to figure out how to get comfortable with that.
Tell it. Tell it.
And I have a VC executive coach, right? He doesn't look like me. He's a white guy, right? I want to be the best investor I can be. The best investors happen to be white guys,
They're white
right?
dudes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so and he's great and we because there's you have to understand what do you need that coach to help you with. Would you go and just start swimming without getting lessons first, or would you actually try to get mentorship from someone who is actually a great swimmer? Same with like if you're trying to get in shape, are you going to go and get a personal trainer who has a pot belly, or are you going to go get someone that actually looks like they've been taking care of themselves and they know what to do and they can guide you? So you have to be very honest with yourself on, are you looking for an executive coach that's going to make you the best person you need to be in the business that you're trying to operate? Or are you looking for someone to validate all of the things that you go through that you don't actually want to deal with? And that's a different type of support.
And
So,
be real about it.
yeah,
And
just
be
be
real
honest.
about it.
Yeah.
Be real about it. This episode's real. We're getting real here because that is important. Two quick things on top of that is just simply say, who is your target customer or like who's your ideal person in your field and who's your target? When I tell you that it's been a changer, my business
Mhm.
coach is not a business coach. She's a strategist. Why? I'm a strategic planner. So I
Right.
need someone who did strategic planning at a high level. She can list off all these Fortune 500, 150 companies that she worked for to be like, I know how to do strategy at this level. She's a white woman. She's phenomenal. Second person, who's your ideal customer? Who would I like to sell to? White man took me and taught me how to reverse engineer my business. He was just like, yeah, this is
Mm.
how you do it. I had 90% of what he said, I had no idea what that man was talking about. He wrote it down then in an email. I took said email to people and said, how do I execute this? That is why I can tell you 2 years early, I'm where I need to be. And I knew it because I asked him, how do I get you in it as a customer? And
Right.
at that time, it wasn't appropriate, but it was like, how do I want to work with you? I want this thing to work with you and the kind of company you are running, a multi-billion dollar company. That's how you do it. And he does obviously not look like me, But
Yes.
that's the key. Stop getting stuck. Now, again, if your business requires that you need a Black woman coach because you're into that field, then get that person, but have them
Yes.
have the reputation and the resume that matches it. Do not get a peer. Do not get someone who's selling you a program. You don't
Hmm.
need a program. You need a mentor. You need a person who's done it over and over again to teach you how to do it right.
And again, it's about being honest with yourself. What do you want out of that relationship? Whether it is that mentorship or that coaching relationship, what are you trying to gain? So I have executive coaches that I work with. That's really just a more of the unlearning side of some of
Yes.
my own habits around business. Excuse me, in the way that I navigate things. And then I have my executive coach where I just go deep dive into investing, right? And so
Yes.
you just have to be very honest of what you are trying to accomplish. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in those early days, they're not ready to be honest because everyone has been sold this I'm a fake it till I make it type thing. You don't have
Yeah.
to. If you're just honest, people are ready to collaborate with you and help you get the support you need if you're honest about where you are in that journey.
And clear, honest, and
Yes.
then clear to translate it to them. There's a lot of people willing to help. That person who reverse engineered my business, he didn't send me a price invoice afterward. He did it because he saw that I was really good at said thing and was like, I want to help you. But I had to be clear about where I was going and what I wanted and be specific to the questions. I think yes, yes, all the things. Yes, this is so important. And I hope people are listening to this because this will make a difference. I am telling you, as someone who's been on the journey, you, Shalanda, are even ahead of me on the journey. We are telling you, okay, this is what makes success. And unlike a lot of people in the social media sphere who are just talking words and
Mhm.
saying things and looking good, the receipts that people can bring you is what's going to change it. And do you know the receipts of the people that you're investing in or going to? Any last words of kind of wisdom for Black women in the business arena? Any last words? And then tell us how we can connect with you, Shalanda.
Absolutely. So my last words would be collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. There are Black women are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurship in America. And we are likely to be solopreneurs because we don't actually build out companies or big enough teams. And
Yes.
there's just not a lot of collaboration among Black women. That has to change. And I really want your listeners to understand there's so much power in collaboration. There is so like and it's not just trying to collaborate with someone above you, it's collaborating across because you never know where folks are going to end up.
Yes.
And so that
Yes.
is extremely important. And honestly, that is how we move the needle for all of our businesses. Is because you don't know who's connected to who. And as you may be explaining a problem, they can go, oh, I have someone I can connect you to that can help you with that. Right.
Yeah.
So we really, really need to open up and just collaborate more and be okay with collaborate. We don't have to gatekeep everything. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of folks are in this scarcity mindset where, well, there can only be room for one. And I would say, please do not get tricked out of your spot to believe that there's only room for one of us. There's so much room for all of us.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful words. How can we connect with you?
Yeah, so you can definitely find me on Instagram. Our firm is 100KM Ventures. Definitely follow us there. And of course, uh, the LinkedIn and everything, 100kmvc.com is our page for the firm. And so definitely reach out. Would love to connect with folks. If you are a founder, feel free to submit your pitch deck on our websites. I'm sure I don't want you getting hit up for pitch decks to connect
Yeah.
with me. So if you do have a startup that you are raising, feel free to connect with us there as well.
Shalanda Armstrong, thank you so much for coming on the pod. This was so powerful, and I know the listeners are going to love it.
Thank you for having me. Great conversation as always. And we have to, I mean, now that we've taken some of our sidebar conversations and we brought them on air, we have to figure out how to do this again. So
Yes. Oh, we're going to do it again. Please, trust me. Don't threaten me with a good time. You're going to be back. Thank you for
Absolutely.
coming on.
All right, no problem. Good talking to you.
So that's it for this episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Shalanda is so helpful and so thoughtful. All the ways to connect with her and her company are going to be in the show notes. Please take advantage. If you have a great idea, if you could be that one in a million, what'd she say, a decacon, a unicorn, whatever language, if you think that's you, she said there's a way to reach out to her. Otherwise, please let me know in your reviews, in social media, what helped you about this episode, what more information you would need. Shalanda and I were talking afterward, and we're just excited to continue this going and excited to keep connecting with you and giving you what you need to be the best business person you can be. To that end, the podcast is also a business, and there's ways that you can support it. The first way is just liking and subscribing to this podcast, sharing it with people. If this episode, you know a person, you're like, girl, you starting a business or you're in a business, have you considered these things? Send it to them, encourage them. Numbers and downloads is what funds the podcast. So are your reviews, and I read every single one of them. Please consider leaving a review. It's literally a tap of a button on Spotify. It's also a tap of a button on Apple, and you can leave some words of encouragement. You can also comment on the episodes on Spotify, and I respond to all those comments as well. Follow us along Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Substack. It's all Black Girl Burnout. That is it. Very easy to remember. We own all the real estate there. Like, follow, share. And our vibrant community on Substack, I think we're at 8,000 now. It's just exploding. If you want more information where I go deeper, I share a lot more about my personal life and what's going on for me, my reflections, my struggles. It's all over on Substack. It's completely free to join. But if you have the means and you want to support, it also supports the podcast. For $8 a month, you get extra. You get an extra little plug, some more actionable things. I'm going to start doing raffles and things in the coming weeks. You don't want to miss out on the subscription. All right. I think that's it for now. Don't forget about the Q&A episode. There is a Q&A episode. The form to submit your questions is in the show notes. You can also just send me a DM on Instagram or TikTok, or send me a message on Substack. All of those are welcome. All right, until next week, rest up, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and find your joy this summer.